Why should the Kenyan people pay for it?
What you're saying is for these bold ideas to be implemented, we're going to see the prosecution of either Uhuru Kenyatta or William Ruto. Is that what we're going to see?
Of course, the Kenyan people must demand accountability. Where have you ever seen Kenyans stoning their members of parliament like they were stoning them last year? Yeah. You saw them being stoned inside those ambulances. They were running like chicken in a slaughterhouse, scared of the wrath of the people. I do believe that energy is still there. And the Kenyan people, when the time comes, they will forget water. Ask any common man in Nairobi on the streets if they care about his well become in Mbeere and Malava. They don't care.
Yeah, true.
They don't care. Even if you ask any average man on the streets in Nairobi, who are the candidates in those elections, they don't know. They are bombarding the people's minds, their brains, they're brainwashing them, they're inducting them, indoctrinating them into accepting mediocrity. Because then you start thinking that mediocrity is our norm, when it is not.
Then how do you identify as a voter? Because I listened to Jimmy Wanjigi, I listened to Willis Otieno. It's refreshing to hear what can happen to the economy. It's actually something people are dreaming to see. But then how do we identify that if we're going to vote for them, they will not do what Ruto did?
No, what we always say as Safina.
Hello there and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. That is how you used to hear me introducing shows. I'm right now on my platform where I hope we'll discuss issues rather than political propaganda. I'm also feeling that there are channels in the country that are doing very well, like Lynn Ngugi, and others in the Americas, like Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and many others that speak about ideology. The reason why we're having this platform is to talk about ideology. My conversation today is about legacy politics versus bold ideas that we have in this country. Because this is the first time you're actually watching me through this platform, I'd request that you subscribe so that you can receive videos of the conversation that I have directly on your homepage or through a notification. And also, as you know, these productions are quite expensive. You can support me through the number on the screen so that we can have these conversations. I'm here with the deputy party leader of Safina Party. He's also a constitutional lawyer and designate deputy president, as he says, is under Jimmy Wanjigi's ticket. Willis Otieno, great to see you. Thanks for having me on this inaugural episode of my conversations, which I hope will genuinely now this time around help people shift their ideas rather than helping politicians. I've been thinking, we've been talking a lot about how politicians can do things better, but I think we should talk about how people can make informed decisions. Let me ask you this. What do you think is the current situation of the country politically? I'm hearing a lot of Mbeere, Gachagua, Kindiki, nitamvua nguo. Gachagua is going to people's houses. I've seen a Njugush skit.
Sasa nimekuja kuwaomba kura, nimekuja kuona mahali mnaishi ili tujue muone tuko pamoja na msinishikashike. Inside, tuingieni ndani. Inside kuya. Hapa ndio mnaishi. Nataka ndio muone tuko pamoja inside.
Well, that is Njugush doing that. And I'd wonder, what do you think is the current situation of politics in this country, especially as we are heading to this election that has happened today, and then to the general elections?
You know, the main thing that we must note, that's legacy politics at play, where people are campaigning for themselves. That's got nothing to do with the people. It's about the ego of the legacy politicians. So they run skits everywhere, make a mockery of your poverty, to pretend that they are connected to you as a person, not coming to your home to discuss issues that are impactful to your life. What are the ideas? If you ask Gachagua or Kindiki, the homes they went to drink tea, or the pitiable kiosks where they were drinking tea, if you ask them to tell you what they discussed with the owners of those kiosks, they'll not tell you. If you go to ask the kiosk owner, what did they discuss to improve your kiosk? They'll not tell you. The most they'll tell you is maybe I was given a handout. Legacy politics. When ideally, a conversation should have been had about what are the challenges that small businesses are facing? And my presence here is to listen or to hear from the small businesses, to find out what are the barriers that are stopping them from self-actualizing. And what can we do? What is our policy proposal to improve the lot of the small businesses? Nothing like that. But like as a politician, I don't want that kind of a conversation. It's too difficult. It's too onerous. You'll put them on a pedestal that they cannot honor. So they prefer, let me go and take a picture in a poor home to show that I connect with the people. Those people in that poor home don't want you to connect with them. They want you to change their lives.
But why are they welcoming the legacy politicians?
But it's what they've been fed for 60 years. Subconsciously, they are beaten. Our people are beaten. They don't know any better. That's what they've known. Hence, this public education that we're having. It's about sensitizing the people to ask more of those who want the positions of leadership. And leadership should not be about the individual. It should be about the issue that the individual represents. So that when a voter is going to cast his ballot, what is the primary issue that is driving me in casting a ballot for this particular campaign or that other campaign? But today, they tell you 1 term, 2 term. Then beneath it, what is the need for the people? Give them 5,000, 2,000, 1,500 handouts.
How confident are you that Kenyans will vote based on ideas? We have just seen this election that has happened in Mbeere and Malava and other by-elections that have taken place. How certain are you that people are going to vote based on ideas?
Because we are going to have the first elections after the Gen Z revolution. That Gen Z revolution was mobilized on ideas, not on legacy politics. And the numbers which that revolution was able to bring out had never been seen in the history of this country. And if you notice, even the legacy politicians, they've attempted to respond to it. Now, every politician all over town is doing the so-called economic empowerment. Everybody is running economic empowerment programs everywhere. So you can see even the legacy politicians are changing their mindset to start discussing the economy. Remember, the economy was the main issue that the Gen Zs brought as the point of constellation in their revolution. So the response of the legacy politicians is to say, I'll give you handouts. We'll give you air washers, dryers, car washing machines, funny things, boda, piki, as to empower you economically. So they're getting there. But that will not be enough. Because you are noticing people asking, beyond giving the boda, what is the economic policy? Where are the customers? This boda. How much is this boda spending on operating costs, cost of fuel? So they're asking more. So I believe that the Kenyan people are now moving towards an issue-based politics.
How different will this be compared to Kibaki's rainbow? We just had a conversation about Kibaki before we started, and you said there was issue-based politics from Kibaki's side. What changed?
What changed was that the easier way out. The difficult part of politics is when you're doing issue-based politics. The easiest politics is the tribal-based politics, called legacy politicians. No? It's the easiest thing that I can turn a Luo to become an enemy of a Kalenjin for no reason, just because he's not my tribesman. Or turn a Luo to be an enemy of a Kikuyu, just because he's not my tribesman.
Was this Kibaki's doing?
No, it was Kibaki in a way didn't, in my view, carry out the mandate that he received in 2002 fully. Because he allowed the legacy politics to claw back on the unity of the nation that had been achieved in December 2022 to 2022 by allowing tribal caucuses to come in. People start now sharing government based on tribe. That was his undoing. He didn't have that sight to understand that his mandate was derived from the whole country. And in fact, in that election, the whole country, all Kenyans, save for Kisses, voted for a Kikuyu. Because the only three main candidates you could talk about was Kibaki, Uhuru, and Nyachai.
Yes.
The whole country voted for a Kikuyu candidate.
Yes.
So we are not tribal. People are looking for an opportunity for a campaign that is going to make meaning to our lives. And NAC, other than just saying Moi must go, Moi was the problem, they also had tangible economic promises and social promises. When Kibaki said free primary education, every Kenyan was seeing that on the first day of the school term in January, I will not be removing Kenya shillings from my pocket to pay for school fees. My kid will just be reporting to school. And at the time, even Nat was saying that is impossible. You cannot have free primary education in this country. You don't have enough teachers. Kibaki said we are going to have free primary education. We had it. What did he achieve? Number one, the social component. Kids were able to get education for free. Many kids who, if at all, were not getting access to education, were able to go to school. So we saw school enrollment numbers go up. Then number two, which is more important, on the economy, he stimulated an economy that was growing on a negative GDP to a positive in less than 5 years. Why? FPE, free primary education, in essence, economically, released money back to the pockets of the parents. What I was spending in school fees has now been given to me as a parent. I now spend it on something else. So if I was buying for my kids 1 loaf of bread, I now buy 2 loaves of bread. If I was buying 2 sticks of cigarettes, I can now buy 7 per day. So the cigarette manufacturer must produce more cigarettes. The baker must bake more bread. And they must employ more people.
True.
That was the stimulating effect of FPE. It stimulated the economy that was on a negative growth rate to, within a short time, you start seeing a growth pattern.
So that was Kibaki, did issue politics, but then did not respond to the mandate of the people, brought back ethnicity.
You went back into the comfortable. Which comfortable? The easier one. The easiest politics to play in this country is tribal politics.
What did
Beat one tribe against the other. That's the easiest politics to play. But Kenyans are rejecting that kind of politics.
What did President Ruto do? Because it didn't. Did you see it as legacy politics in 2022 when it was about the hustler narrative, bottom up, saying we're going to transform the economy from the bottom?
Partly, William Ruto's campaign of 2022, he was trying to turn it to be issue-based. That is about the people, the hustler. Bottoms up. Let's pay attention to Kenyans. The hustler is not a tribal demographic. The hustler appears in every tribe. So that was his campaign platform. But what did he do in office? Once in office, he went back to the comfortable, the easier one now. Tribal kingpins. Pit tribes against the other. Create tribal cocoons where people are focusing. Then you use those tribal pillars to deny the Kenyan people accountability. So you get the elected representatives who are supposed to hold you to account to now support your agenda for nothing. So it's gone the traditional route.
Then how do you identify as a voter? Because I listened to Jimmy Wanjiki, I listened to Willis Otieno. It's refreshing to hear what can happen to the economy. It's actually something people are dreaming to see. But then how do we identify that if we're going to vote for them, they will not do what Ruto did?
You know, what we always say as Safina, we have our feast agenda, the 5-point agenda. We say number one, we will not pay odious debt. Like this year alone, this financial year alone, we are going to pay 2.3 trillion Kenya shillings in debt. The bulk of it is odious. So the 2.3 trillion that you're going to pay in debt, we will not pay it. To run education in this country from primary to secondary to tertiary activities is costed at around 300 billion Kenya shillings. That is if you look at the number of students and per capita, 300 billion. So we have 2.3 trillion.
Yes.
We will remove 300 billion and pay. To run healthcare in this country, shift share costed is 170 billion. So we have now 2 trillion remaining from the odious debt. We will apply to the healthcare system. So no Kenyan will remove a coin from their pockets to access healthcare services. That will have been taken care of from the taxes, which was before going towards paying illegal debt. So people go there for free. And it's important you note this.
Yes.
It's not government that falls sick, it's the people. The hospitals are where the people are. So in this one, power is in the hands of the people. Go and get your services for free. In fact, your demand of us should be the quality of the service we are receiving, not the question of access. VAT contributes 329 billion the last financial year to our tax revenue. We are saying to give people a breather, reduce VAT, can't do away with VAT, and reduce a 5% sales tax. So everybody immediately who consumes a vatable item gets as 11% relief, immediately, instant. Right? Who pays VAT? It's the people, not the government. So power is in your hands. Once you elect us, you don't pay that VAT. Pay the 5% sales tax. Where will you hold you to account?
Why is
so we are not saying, as Ruto, for example, was saying, tutapea Mama Mboga 10 billion, tutapea bodaboda 20 billion. Hapana. We are saying it is power in your hands.
You are not paying VAT.
Don't pay VAT.
Don't pay hospitals.
Don't pay hospitals.
Don't pay for schools.
Yes. And we told you where the money will come from.
From the debt.
From the debt, odious debt that we've been paying. And we have said we are not paying it.
The question that comes when you say that, of course, I've had you answering it, but because this is my first show, different people are going to watch this that probably haven't listened to you. How are you not going to pay debt?
Our country is a country of the rule of law. Kenya is a republic, not a monarchy. And a republic is governed by the rule of law, the constitution and the acts of parliament. Our laws are very explicit. You only borrow money for development. And before you borrow any money for development, you must get parliamentary approval. Yesterday, you saw the Auditor General's statement saying 300 billion domestic debt cannot be accounted for. There's no project funded. So why should Kenyan people pay for that?
That means it has gone to people's accounts.
It has gone to people's accounts. Why should we pay for it? You are taking loans without parliamentary approval. Parliament has approved you're taking a loan of only 300 billion. You've taken 800 billion. Why should we pay the 500 billion extra? Because what Parliament approves is the project. In the Appropriations Act, Parliament approves which development projects are going to be done by the government and the sources of funds. This one will be financed using tax revenue. This one will be financed using a loan that we've approved from this bank or this lending institution. It's there in the budget.
Yeah.
That is why you achieve what is called a balanced budget. You know the project expenditure and you know the source of the revenue. So if somebody goes to take 300 billion and is not supporting any activity in the budget, why should the Kenyan people pay for it?
What you're saying is for these bold ideas to be implemented, we're going to see the prosecution of either Uhuru Kenyatta or William Ruto. Is that what we're going to see?
Of course, the Kenyan people must demand accountability. If they've been stealing money in the names of the people of Kenya, why should they not be prosecuted? They should answer. That's the rule of law. I said from the beginning, Kenya is a country of the rule of law. If the law says that you received money in the name of the people, when that money did not arrive at the consolidated fund, as the laws of the republic require, then it should be answerable. So yes, those who signed presidential warrants, those who opened strange accounts offshore, the accountant general and his deputy, yes, they should be prosecuted. That's the law. And they must answer. That is not witch hunt. That is the law.
There's a word I came across, cognitive dissonance, where people believe in one thing but behave a different way. Can people believe in you and still vote for legacy politicians?
You see, that's the beauty of democracy. Let the people decide. I'm an optimist and I believe in the resilience of the people of Kenya. And if I ever had any doubt about the resilience of the people, that doubt was erased last year and this year. When unmobilized by any legacy politician, the people came out in their numbers, never seen hitherto in the history of the earth, to speak in one accord on the economy. So I have faith in the people. And I do believe that when the right time comes, they will make the right choice. A choice that is meant to achieve the common good, of the people, not legacy politicians. Where have you ever seen Kenyans stoning their members of parliament like they were stoning them last year? Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw them being stoned inside those ambulances. They were running like chicken in a slaughterhouse, scared of the wrath of the people. I do believe that energy is still there. And the Kenyan people, when the time comes, they will forget water.
There's the argument that it's the constitution that is not perfect, that it needs some amendments for things to work. But then you're talking about if we just deal with debt, we're good as a country. If we just deal with the economy, we're good as a country. Can we be able to deal with all these issues that arise, election issues, IEBC has done this, Bomas has done this, without changing the constitution?
Our constitution is a very good document. It does not need to be tinkered with. You don't even need to amend a comma. In fact, if you were to ever amend a comma, it would be to abolish parliament and let people meet in their local councils and make decisions. But we don't need to amend anything. What we lack is the hardware to run this system. Then the hardware is the legacy politicians.
If there is something we lack, that means it's not as perfect as it should be.
No. It is not something that can be born within the constitution. It's external. That's
why
I call it a hardware.
Some argue it is dependent on the president.
No, that's the point. It is legacy politicians who are applying bad political culture. Why do you think the Constitutional Human Rights Division of the High Court and the Judicial Review Division of the High Court here in Nairobi is the busiest division of the High Court? Who are the respondents? The same government, right?
Yes.
Whose decisions are being challenged as being unconstitutional.
By the people.
By the people. And the courts have, in most cases, not disappointed. So it tells you that the problem is not the constitution. It is more the people who are entrusted the responsibility of implementing policy decisions that are undermining the constitution. And when they do that, we've seen people filing cases here in court. And the courts have pronounced themselves to uphold the constitution. If the constitution was a problem, many of these cases that are filed in the constitutional division would have collapsed. But they have not collapsed. So it tells you the problem is not the constitution. The problem is the legacy politicians and their surrogates.
Who are being elected by the people.
Who have gotten their mandate from the people. But not for long. Not for long. Wajinga walirevuka Kenya. Kenyans may have been hyper naive, but now they are enlightened. They are aware. They are assertive, and they know what they want in their leadership.
Of course, there are people who want me to talk about Mbeere because it's trending and Malava. And let me finish with that. What will the election determine? Because there are some who say if Ruto wins Mbeere or Malava or Gachagua wins with this DCP or the ones in DP win in Malava, that means Ruto still has a grip. Do you assess this as legacy politics, or do you assess this as, some truth that there are people out here who will bring Ruto back into power?
Legacy politics wants to create a perception that will help them to self-perpetuate. And that perception, they're trying to turn these by-elections to be about the future. They are not about the future. Ask any common man in Nairobi on the streets if they care about who's going to become an MP in Mbeere or Malava. They don't care.
Yeah, true.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Even if you ask any average man on the streets in Nairobi, who are the candidates in those by-elections, they don't know. So they don't care. But they have an opinion and a view on the national question. But legacy politicians want to make Mbeere and Malava a big issue to occupy our national psyche, right? That I have won or I have lost, so and so has lost. So now I have the momentum. The average Kenyan don't care about those by-elections. That's the truth. And even within the respective constituencies, they don't care much about who becomes MP than they care about their national governance. They care more about the failing economy.
But should people care though? Should people care though who is their legislator? Should people care?
They should. But right now, our major problem as a people is not about those MPs. MPs have been cancelled. The 13th parliament was stoned and banned. So people don't care. People care about the national problem, which is the economy. That is their primary focus. So even if you elected somebody who is opposed to William Ruto in Mbeere or Malava, what change will it make in parliament? When he has another almost 220 psychopaths. So what will that one MP do? What change will he make in policy and legislation? Zero. So why should Kenyans care?
Is there anything, though, that bugs you about Kenyans as they vote? Maybe I should finish with that. Is there anything that you reflect on as you're thinking, as I'm going to campaign tomorrow in Kayole or in Murang'a?
Legacy politicians are making it almost impossible for people to campaign. Why? They've turned the cities and the rural areas to be areas of marauding gangs demanding handouts. Yeah, from everybody who's going out to campaign. So for you to go somewhere, you are confronted with hapless young people who are demanding to be given handouts.
And if you don't?
They can disrupt your meeting.
And so you have to.
And even when you do, the meeting is over. Because now they've gotten what they, in their desperate state, they're hungry. They need to eat. So even when you give them money, they go
to eat.
They go to eat. Why? Because legacy politicians have messed up the economy. So even when people are going to political rallies, they're hungry. They just hope to get some food to eat. When you give them that food to eat, they go home. They don't listen to the message. When you don't give them, they can disrupt your function.
So what strategy are you using in campaigning now that you know if you go to the ground?
I don't fear beating people. I have my own ways. I'm a man of the town. Mimi ni kijana ya town. So I have my ways of talking to
the
them.
reason why I'm asking you that is because there are a lot of Gen Zs campaigning now.
But even on
and they would want to know, how can I go
see,
to
on
ground?
these digital platforms? On these digital platforms, that is where, for example, Gen Z mobilized. On the new digital platforms. Those are powerful tools that Kenyans are now using to self-converse. There's a group of young people I bumped into the other day. These guys meet every 2 or 3 days, and you find a meeting of 300,000 people. Even Raila Odinga in his best political days could not hold a rally of 300,000 people. 300,000 every 2 days are logged into live TikTok, and they are having a conversation. And it can go even up to 1 a.m. in the morning from 8. So that should tell you that we just have to move away from the traditional and adopt the new tools of engagement. So the legacy politicians have muddled the open campaign, but the modern tools give us a reach and access beyond what traditional means had given us. So I'll encourage any young person who wants to contest for political office, don't despair. Make use of the available tools, the modern tools of communication and reach, to send out your message and to network. And they are powerful tools, I can tell you.
You said legacy politicians, finally, propagate their messages through media. I think we talked about this before we started. Is media the weak link? Because I wake up in the morning, honestly, and I switch on TV and I go to this channel, and all I'm hearing is, Mbeere, did Kindiki say this right? Was he supposed to say this? Or did Ruto said this in a wrong way? What should happen to media, or will it remain this way?
Legacy media, don't even just say media. I have no issue with, for example, digital media in terms of what they share out. They try to capture beyond the rhetoric, beyond the enchantments. But legacy media, tools of legacy politicians, all they do, they try to subconsciously brainwash the people by dumping on them 1 term, 2 term. Matusi from this politician, a response from the other. Who cares about what Gachagua says about Ruto? Who cares about what Kindiki says about Gachagua? Kenyans don't care. It will not change the value of our lives, what Kindiki says about Gachagua. But if they were to only capture that part of the conversation where Kindiki is speaking on the economy, Gachagua is speaking on the economy, that will impact the people's lives. But our legacy media also, they want the easy way out. The easy way out is to show Matusi. People don't want to think, don't want to interrogate. So when they show those kind of rhetorics, empty rhetorics on the campaign trail, what are they intending to achieve? What are they intending to achieve? You ask yourself that question. They are bombarding the people's minds, their brains, they're brainwashing them. They're inducting them, indoctrinating them into accepting mediocrity. Because then you start thinking that mediocrity is our norm, when it is not. So even the legacy media have a duty and a responsibility in terms of what they cover. If they can say that, okay, for just this month alone, we are only covering a political campaign or a politician who is discussing an issue. And we are going to fact check you on the issue. We are removing, there's no value in this Matusi politics, in this chance of 1 term, 2 term. Ati Arambe 1 term, Arambe 2 term. So what? Ruto going is gone. What we should be focusing on beyond Ruto, what next? What is the agenda? What is the take home for the people? Yeah, people have already cancelled Ruto.
You know, we used to argue with you when you came to set, and you'd say who here would vote for Ruto, and then no one would say. But then we look at polls and we see some online polls putting him at 17, others at 30, others at 40. Is Ruto really gone?
Ruto is gone. Ruto is gone. Even a miracle cannot save Ruto. There's nothing he can do. Those polls you are referring to, are they scientific opinion polls? Number one. Number two, who has sponsored them? Who has paid for them? That is part of a narrative to try to control, to brainwash the minds of the people. Create something that does not exist. And I can ask anybody. Ask your friend, ask your family members, wherever you are. Count. Out of 10 people, how many can vote for William Ruto? You'll be lucky to get 2. You'll be lucky to get 2. And across the nation, not just at certain regions. Across the nation, you'll be lucky to get 2. So where will he get his votes from? It's done.
And that means, from your perspective, not just perspective, but from your optimism, that Kenyans will vote based on ideas.
Kenyans will vote based on ideas, because if they're not going to vote based on ideas, by now they will have chosen their candidate. It will be clear who the alternative is. When Raila Odinga was here and he was campaigning against Kibaki or Uhuru, you could tell, by now you will tell the alternative is Raila Odinga, what it stands for. As the other is losing, you can see the alternative. How come there's no alternative today? Why is there an alternative? Who sees Gachagua, for example, as president? Very few people. Right? But on a normal day, with an incumbent who has lost favor with the people, the way Gachagua and Kalonzo have campaigned hard, by now they will have been cemented as alternative. How come they are not?
People are looking.
It means the people are looking for that person who answers to their problem, which is the economy.
Well, thanks for tuning into this one. I know I've said finally so many times. It's been a while since I did a conversation. You mentioned something about feasts. We haven't talked about it because I hope we talk about it in another conversation, that agenda. And also, if you're out there and you want to partner with this program, you can call me on that number on the screen so that we can collab and talk about real issues that actually matter to the people of Kenya. This has been my first show. I'm really grateful that you've decided to come in with 0 subscribers and we can still talk.
Thank you, Jadiel.
Thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day. Till we do talk again. Goodbye for now.